Have you checked the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Howdy folks, welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Robert Duell.
You got Jaime and Fuego here, and we are doing a little bit of a comic, like, just...
It's a mashup review,
so to speak. I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but yeah, man.
It's a triple feature we got coming.
Indeed. There are three different, although I'm doing the two, there are basically, the third is a recreation as opposed to an actual, like, professionally narrated sort of bit. But yes, we have none other than Wildstorm's version of The Lost Boys, which is right there, and this preceded the resurgence of the film. And then we also had The Lost Boys, where they're apparently able to put those three letters ahead. And yes, this was done by Vertigo by way of DC, and so yeah, kind of conflicting narratives a little bit, but not so much actually, where they couldn't reside in the same universe, surprisingly. So.
That is true, and everything could be kind of like, well, to a point, it'd be almost like an alternate ending. Yeah. In a sense.
Thank you, Zack Snyder, and your Justice League silliness, because now we're all looking at alternate.
I still haven't gotten through that.
Oh, I loved it. I
haven't been able to sit down for 4 hours straight just to do that. But yeah, other than that, it's Lost Boys comics, and also we're going to be reviewing. So these two little gems right here. If you guys recognize those, these are actually the comic props from the original Lost Boys that the Frog Brothers were showing Sam Emerson. Yeah,
and one of the most authentic recreations that we have. So
yeah, and that's the one thing I always like when companies do this. They recreate certain props from movies and everything, so you can have them on your shelves. Well,
they often charge a lot for it, which is what sucks.
Well, yeah, it does and everything, especially depending on the prop. Yeah. Depending on like how it's done, it's definitely worth the money. Yeah.
True that.
But it's even still, like with these, they're hella nice and everything. Just to even have just for the nostalgia thing of the movie.
Yeah, and you have three different viewing opportunities, which is really rad.
Exactly.
So you have just the pencils.
Yep. It's just black and white.
Yeah, and then you also have it inked up, and then there is also that 3D. Like black and red sort of situation. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the 3D if you couldn't figure that one out. Yeah. But
reaching back in that regard.
Yeah. But other than that, so like obviously you guys tell like
they still look really good, man.
Yeah, these are the pages recreated and everything from the original comic from the movie. And yeah, like the artwork and whatnot, it's really nice, very well done. It even says here in the front. Yeah, so they were originally commissioned by Chris Miller to do these. Okay, so yeah. And was it created the original artwork based on instructions, the script, and a handful of torn out pages from Eugene Colon/Marv Wolfman Tomb of Dracula. So it definitely had inspiration from the Tomb of Dracula Marvel comics.
As it should have, yeah. Marvel was one of the first peeps that was trying to do the sort of horror comics back in the day, and so, jumping back to it, it makes the utmost sense. So,
yeah. No, but other than that, like, they're fun little comics to have and everything. Cool little. Obviously, they're not like super big stories. They're just a couple little clips and everything. But
yeah, I think it was like 10 to 12 pages. But the fact that it was
total, But the actual like story of it was like I think it was only like 4 or 5 of that.
Yeah, and the fact that it was done in all those like differentiating, sort of sectors and stuff was imperative.
So there's that.
Yeah, but we're gonna talk Reign of Frogs.
Yes.
I think before the Vertigo. So and that's because of the fact that it was released before the Vertigo. So this was a Wildstorm comic.
Yep.
And it was shortly before Actually, it was the Tribe. I was thinking the Thirst, which is
Thirst was the third movie.
It's the third film.
Tribe, yeah. So basically,
this gave some backstory.
Yeah, Reign of Frogs is a sequel to Lost Boys, but a prequel to the Tribe, and it's that basically that middle story of
which is the worst of the Lost Boys films. If you're going to ask me specifically,
they regain a little bit of stuff in the third one, but not.
I like the third film. I like the third film.
I'll have to go back and rewatch it and everything because I didn't do that rewatch with you and Marsha and everything. But from what I remember, it was definitely more enjoyable than the Thirst.
Slightly,
but obviously the the granddaddy is going to be the original,
Yeah.
from, who was it? Schumacher, wasn't it?
Yep, Joel Schumacher. Yes,
Okay.
Directamundo.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all right,
Great director.
Yes, great director and
Yeah.
great movie. I'm sure, as you guys well
Yeah.
enough know. But yeah, so Reign of Frogs. So basically, this is like we just said, it's a prequel sequel for the Lost Boys tribe and original movie, but it's the adventures and the shenanigans. It's not like I say shenanigans of what the
Shenanigans.
Yeah, of what
I declare shenanigans.
yeah, of what the Frog
South Park
Brothers
status.
have been up to in the meantime, kind of after that whole fight with what was his name?
David.
No, well, David, but the mother's boyfriend, the main vampire.
Oh,
What was his name
goodness.
again?
His name,
Max.
His name eludes me. Yeah.
Max.
Yeah, the guy who owned the video store.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was after the battle with them and everything. But basically, come to find out, David's not dead. So he survived his little impalement with
because
fight
he
with
was
Michael.
he was impaled on like
Antlers.
It's like antlers or
Yep.
horns or
Yeah, he
whatever
got
the
impaled
fuck it
on
was.
thing
Yeah,
antlers
yeah.
by Michael and everything
Yeah.
during their fight, but apparently he survives.
Indeed.
And so it's basically them dealing with coming to find out that there's a whole new coven of not there's a whole new coven of vampires because
It was existing the
existing
entire
coven of
time,
vampires and
yeah.
everything, but new to the story.
Yeah.
Who is actually the real head vampire.
Yeah, indeed.
But
yeah.
that's going into spoilers and everything because again, it's a nice tie-in with stuff from the original and going into the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I definitely I will say I liked about this series is especially the ending on the beach party that they showed in the original tribe and how they
right.
tie that into the tribe, which was kind of neat and well done.
No, I'm not denying that factor. No, like 100%. It actually made me appreciate that second movie that I hate so much, like the slightest bit more, because of the fact that the comic Wildstorm and Jim Lee and those guys did a great job of just marrying in, like branching it, so to speak. Despite the fact that I don't like the second movie, and I really like the third movie, and yet there is a comic continuity amongst all of them.
There is and everything, especially with the Reign of Frogs, because the Thirst takes elements from this.
It does massively, especially when you see what our Frog Brothers have been doing. Fighting over the. Okay, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. This came before that, so I got to give credit for a really interesting idea. Ben Franklin, as you told me.
Oh yeah.
Not just Abe and not just all these other people. Like it was a specific
thing that's in the second,
created in this universe.
Yeah, that's in the second half.
It was in the Thirst. Yeah.
Yeah. But was it? But yeah, other than that, like we get to see the Frog Brothers go international with their vampire hunting,
truly,
which
which
was kind of cool.
I jumped the gun, guys. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good and everything. That's kind of the thing with the mashup reviews. Kind of there's times we're gonna get a little jumbled and everything and stuff.
Truly.
But no, other than that, I would say the most enjoyable thing I would say about this comic series would be the brutalness and the redesign of the vampires and everything. So it's like even with this. So take it for example. I'm just gonna go back. So here we have that's the rendition. Let's see if we can get this.
Yeah.
That'd be David.
And I have to say that the female vampires were very sexy in this, back half of it.
And that's the thing. It's like even with like the whole vampire mythology, they have that sexual lure and stuff. So when you play with that in the tropes, it works. To a point. Obviously, you can get too overly sexualized and everything with vampires
and that's the thing. They take it to a drastically different direction with the Lost Girls and the other comic we're going to talk about. But yeah, man, I was all about differentiating grandfather, some of the crisis and conflict and stuff like that.
And that was the
I dug the Wildstorm version of this Reign of Frogs. I was all about it, man.
Well, like you were just mentioning, like with the grandpa and everything, and like we get something on his backstory. It was actually
little bit
interesting.
Why
it's
is
like,
he a taxidermy kind of guy?
Yeah, and it's like I don't want to do any spoilers because like honestly the Reign of Frogs version was, I think, my favorite.
I think it was superior.
Lost Boys comics.
Yeah, I think it was superior too.
I'm
gonna side with Robert in that.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure. Okay, so here's at least one scene that we can do and everything. So it's like we got.
Mesa.
Yeah, so we got our female vampires and everything like that from the coven, if you will, or whatever.
Yeah, which is where
they're just witches.
Yeah, which is where it's very interesting because without spoiling stuff significantly in the Vertigo version that we're going to give some brief thoughts about, there is a Lost Girls contingent in both of these stories, and so it had been popping around. They were trying to make it into a CW show at one particular point, from what I was reading, and it just didn't happen. So compelling, convincing, interesting. I think, even if it never materialized.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. So, I don't know, when you said Lost Girl, it just reminded me of that BBC or Sci-Fi Channel show about that succubus chick or whatever. That shit was hot. All right, let's get back on to Lost Boys.
Indeed.
But yeah, so that's basically Let's jump honestly into the second part of the comics and everything.
Yeah, please do.
Because really, they're worth checking out, and that's the sad thing with even with the story on this. There's a lot of spoiler stuff that could be said. Even
dare I say,
even with talking like the movies and going back in this and whatnot, it's a little spoilery to a point.
And this is where, dare I say, to chime in, I actually was happy that the previous Reign of Frogs was 4 issues. This one is 6 issues.
Yeah,
it feels like it's all.
Overstaying
its welcome.
At the same time, though, with Reign of Frogs, I would have liked to have actually seen more, because there were some holes that we didn't get in this that were addressed for the ending, like with Sam at the ending of 2.
But the back half of this is just silly to me, which is where
it really is.
Without spoiling stuff, obviously.
It gets it gets
you know what I'm talking
campy.
About. We're not trying to reveal, so to speak.
Yeah, and honestly, that's that aspect, that scene on the later half of this was one of the weaker parts of this story. So real quick, so
give some insight.
For this version of the Lost Boys, so we have right here, it's a semi-continuation, but at the same time, it's a revamp of the story,
and actually nowhere near as far into the timeline as the Reign of Frogs. Like
True.
this is shortly thereafter.
Yeah, this plays. I think
our main contingent characters are like they're far removed.
Yeah, it's only I think maybe like a year or so after this one is supposed to take place for the movie. The Reign of Frogs is.
Yeah, it's supposed
to be
like
decades.
A couple decades for sure.
Yeah, it would be basically modern time, but it jumps back into the 80s for original storytelling. And so with this one, basically, it goes back again with our Frog brothers, Edgar and Alan, and then Sam Emerson. But you also have Michael and Star as well in here. Yeah.
Yeah, Star specifically plays a significant part as far as like affirmations and just influence and stuff like that.
Yeah, and her backstory, I would say, actually on this was pretty intriguing.
Really? Yes, I agree.
I wish they expanded on it a little bit more. Yeah. And again, I don't want to say too much because it's going to be spoiler stuff for you guys. It's definitely worth the read if you guys haven't checked these out already.
Dare I say, Robert, it's like we have a lot of intriguing pieces placed in the first 3 issues, and then in the back 3 issues where we shift to the home and all that other stuff. I feel like they abandoned.
They did, and also I feel like
it kind of aggravates me.
They didn't really know where and how to wrap it up. Yeah, so it seemed a little forced.
True.
To a point.
Yeah, man.
But other than that, so you have Michael and Star dealing with lives as humans again, and she's actually diagnosed with I can't remember what cancer, what she was diagnosed with, and everything. So now she's basically having to deal with that mortality after being, still a half vampire, but you're still kind of immortal at the same time.
Which obviously entices you to the possibility of living forever, and
exactly
that allure.
And then they actually do touch back up on that in this and everything.
They do
dealing with her stuff, which was nicely written into the character because it gave it a little bit more of the heartfelt and sadness of what her and Michael were going through.
Yeah, exactly. As far as the connection and the capacity of connection and
the PTS dealing and everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
But other than that, so what's interesting about this? So we have some reintroduction of past characters from the original movie.
Yeah, give the distinction because like there is a world where both of these comics can live within
they
themselves,
can, but at the same time, there's still like an
nuances.
there's an alternate reality aspect of this.
Yeah.
So if you guys recognize that beautiful little saxophone player, so we have Tim Capello.
Yeah, we call him the Believer in the comic book.
Yes, he is called the Believer, and he is actually part of a society of vampire hunters. Well, unofficially part of a society of vampire hunters that live in Santa Clara. Yeah,
but still, as Robert clarified, man, one of the most just dissatisfying deaths as far as like heroic characters.
It was
just like all about him,
and like without like,
I felt the same way. So
yeah, and I don't
want
to like say how it happened and everything, but. That character especially, and it's obviously it's a spoiler now.
Yeah.
Like but it was pretty cheap. He could have been fleshed out and been a more prominent character.
It feels very throwaway.
It very was throwaway. It was more of it was that nostalgia thing that I mentioned in the Lost Boys Tribe review with Marsha. Yeah. They tried throwing so many random little things from the original movie
Easter
into
eggs
this.
all over the
Easter
place.
eggs up the ass into this, and it worked times, and then more often than not it didn't work. Even with like Rain of Frogs, they threw certain lines in from like the songs.
Lots of callbacks.
Yeah, Lost in the Shadows, I Still Believe from Tim Capello, which is the main title song.
Yeah, and the fact that he's a believer.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Gunship, for reminding all of us about the fact that he's awesome. But
dude, Tim Capello's a badass, man.
Yeah,
like,
right.
and, like his music accomplishments too. Yeah. Like holy shit, man! Like, he is a badass musician. Like for the longest time, he was doing
Google Tim Capello.
Yeah,
as,
he's done a lot of stuff, especially with Whitney Houston back in the day as
okay, so as
like,
his
touring music stuff and
his bad saxonist.
Oh yeah,
his bad
his sexy Tim Capello and his sexy saxophone.
Yeah, that's what's up.
Yeah, very
cool.
But and then like there are some definitely changes like we had with some of the characters. Hell, even with and it's not really a spoiler because it's really it's Grandpa and everything, and obviously we have Laddie and everything in here, but Grandpa is actually
we have a very different take on
we
Grandpa
have a different take on Grandpa, but also
in the Vertigo versus the Wildstorm.
Exactly, but at the same time, both versions could have been played out to how it could have actually been in the movie. I actually
agree, and that's where
especially with this version of him being part of that Hunter Society.
Yeah, I actually think both of these could be within the same continuity. It's just like different timelines of like looking at the story, so to speak.
I can see that.
So
yeah. And then there's some like
they don't contradict as much as you would
not think. To a point.
Yeah.
One of my biggest, I would say, biggest gripes with this issue.
Yeah, and I'm probably with Robert. I'm gonna overstep you,
You're good,
sir. The back half of this.
But also
the back half of this is just there are allegiance changes, and then there was also like an examination about caring for the elderly that I don't particularly like as far as nefarious nastiness, and so
it was goofy.
I was actually okay with the as you're looking at right now, where the ancient vampire. That was kind of. I thought that was cool.
That was actually kind of cool. But one
that's thing... what the Lost Girls, when they were trying to develop that show, which never ended up happening. That's what they wanted to do, was this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Seeing like done right, it probably would have worked out really good.
Yeah, I mean, it was going to be CW, but
that doesn't matter. We had Supernatural on CW for 15 years.
Yeah, which I love.
Exactly, absolutely love that show.
Yeah, amen.
But
amen.
We could still have that serious, like adult scenarios, but being able to, be attractive to all types of audiences, between teens, adults,
exactly. You have people, the orchestration of being able to be multi-appealing in that regard, and so that was one thing Supernatural did splendidly.
Yeah, one thing I'm gonna.
I love my Winchester voice.
I know. One thing I'm gonna mention real quick. Then I mentioned this, I think, sometime off camera, but the design of David. So if you,
in this specifically,
this
because he shows up in
specifically.
both. He's
Yeah,
in
he
the
is in
Wildstorm.
both of them, like,
He's
the-
in the
like,
Wildstorm as well.
the Reign of Frogs version is a much better rendition of what David should be. This, if you guys,
Kiefer Sutherland is not dead in either. Just to give you guys
if you guys have watched Buffy, you know Spike.
He does have
Tell
a
me
spike
that
going on.
does not
Dude,
look like
you're
Spike.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
And that's one of my biggest issues with.
Oh, issues. Okay.
That was an issue I
feel
had with the design and the character of David in this.
Hmm.
Is he looked too much like Spike?
Less in
Less of
less
like
in the
less of
Reign
actually
of Frogs.
David from Lost Boys
Yeah.
to your Joss Whedon kind of vampires.
Okay, well, it was all punk rock in that friggin' film, though. But
It was
yeah.
it was, but
they're warranted criticisms, man. I mean, no, you're spot on in that
yeah,
regard.
you got Tim Capello up there and everything. Still
Yeah.
got the chains rocking on there. And
Yeah.
one thing, so one cool thing I had.
And that's where I guess I already
had-
spoiled the fact that he does not make it through the conflict, unfortunately.
Yeah, we've
I
already
think
said it. It's all right.
Sorry, guys,
It's
but
all right.
he is super badass.
He
you know,
is
throughout the
and
conflict.
his body oil. He even
Yeah.
makes a mention. So basically, he
Yeah,
rubs
he does,
himself
he does.
down with
funny.
it's a mixture of holy oil and garlic oil, and that's what gives him his majestic sheen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one thing I had to laugh and
Yeah.
kind of liked about what they added with this
Yeah,
character.
props to that cognizance.
Yeah,
specifically, yeah.
it's all in the body oil.
Yeah,
But,
all too often is.
Other than that, though, this comic version or this part of the comic series was pretty lackluster towards the end. Like it started off.
Agree.
It started off.
Started strong, dude. The first few like issues, like 1 through 3, 4, you know. But when they went into that, I mean, still, when they went into the old folks.
Exactly, and like with
that's
this one too, they went more on. It was a little whimsical and like more bright tones versus Reign of Frogs. You had the dark, foreboding kind of gloom overtones with the story.
Yeah, well, with the Reign of Frogs, man, I mean, it was all about the like weird sex club like and kind of thing, which I guess I'm into. You know, whatever.
Yeah,
but,
and then. But even still, like when
it's
they
much more graphic in that.
Yeah, and when they bring that all up, though, like again, though, the tie-in to the movie and those other characters that I mentioned, it works out really nice.
Indeed.
I would have definitely liked to have seen that expanded into the movies.
Agreed. Yeah.
That I think would have worked out a lot better for the sequel instead of the tribe of what we got.
Yeah.
No, I would say like keep the thirst basically what it is, but remove the tribe and insert some of the continuation stories of this and Reign of Frogs.
Dude, I didn't like the tribe stuff about the surfers and all that crap. I was like,
no, it was pointless. But like I said though, the ending of this for that tie-in with the tribe fit well enough. Just because, again, he was the surfer, the party, and everything that David and them attacked. Like,
you're right.
It was easy for them to use that because those were nothing characters. You could literally use them for anything, which they used them well enough.
Sure enough.
But yeah,
that's where we're at.
Other
guys.
than that, yeah, I don't want to like we're gonna keep talking too much and start spoiling a lot more.
Indeed.
They're definitely worth your read. I would highly recommend checking them out.
Agreed.
Like I had said though, and Fuego even agreed, Reign of Frogs is the superior one of these.
Yeah.
And
it's not just because of the fact that it was like commissioned to tie in with
so
it was
first,
like better storytelling,
second.
you know. So there are two different ones. Just to clarify, everybody, there is the Wildstorm Reign of Frogs, which is a 4-issue miniseries, and then there is the 6-issue Vertigo miniseries, which was done. That's supposed to be like more closely tied, and you even see the homeboy Corey on one of those covers. Where, yeah, he's like wearing
it's the last issue, which is supposed to be at the place that we weren't too fond of with all those other characters.
Yeah, I wasn't too big on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still fascinating storytelling. If you were into the just Lost Boys universe, which it's a full universe
for a completionist thing, for getting more of the story of what happens, it's good to have. It's good to read.
Meta, pay attention.
Exactly, and I kind of briefly mentioned this earlier. There was especially stuff with Sam that was shown at the end of Tribe that we don't get a resolution of how that came to be.
Yeah.
That
Distinctive like angles of storytelling about particular characters that you may care about and want to know more.
Yeah, and like they touched on one of the other brothers and everything, but they completely left out what happened with Sam. All they mentioned was, oh, he's in a insane asylum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a throwaway sort of like story, plot hole, whatever.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing too. Is like you brought Corey back to reprise his role as Sam for that ending of the Thirst or of the Tribe.
Yeah,
why
so
not give
him something?
Exactly, give him that conclusion or the actual full story of his character on what happened.
Yeah.
Like, you had plenty of time. You could have even expanded that into one extra issue.
He is pretty relegated in that film, if I remember correctly, like living in the like trailer and whatever.
Well, yeah, Frog. Yeah. But him and Sam at the end, their fight.
Sam specifically.
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah, because we basically have Edgar and Alan's story. But we don't have what happened really to Sam.
To him specifically.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you guys know the avenue to figure out a little bit of additionalness for that. I guess that's gonna wrap things up, guys.
Most definitely.
Yeah. I've been Jaime Fuego.
Yes, and I've been Robert Duell. So from everyone here at the Horror Show, remember, stay scared.